Welcome back to As Promised, the Super Brain Exploration podcast currently. So I'm actually recording this. This is pre-recorded and then scheduled episode because I'm learning how to use my brain in different ways, but also use technology in different ways. But mostly because I'm going to be away from digital devices for 10 days. Super exciting. And of course, this is a commitment that I do not want to allow to fall to the wayside because I'm making a sacrifice on how much time I spend digitally. So, pre recorded episodes, I really hope it works. I really hope it comes out when it's supposed to. I wouldn't know until after the time of my digital detox is done, but let's see. So, this episode is about the 5 myths to dispel, the 5 myths of the brain to dispel. What does dispel mean? As you know, I'm a geek for words. I love Google defining words or just defining words in general. It doesn't have to be Google. And dispel means to make a doubt or a feeling disappear. So we're getting rid of our doubts and our feelings around the brain or what we've been taught about the brain or what we've been taught to believe about the brain. That's a better way to say it. And like I said in I think the first exploration, like please buy this book. Please buy this book if you want to dive in deeper. I'm literally skimming over the surface. I'm only giving you the bits that real rock with me. Do you know what I'm saying? But you need to, I hope that you go on this journey as well because there is so much more in this book, especially the parts that get really, really sciencey. I'm like, okay, I love this word. I just don't know how to say it. And then I go on like a tangent to find out what it means, blah, blah, blah. But obviously, we'll be here for years if I do all that. So I'm only trying to give you the real goodies that move me. And I just hope that you as well go on your own journey with this book, Super Brain, by Deepak Chopra and Rudolph E. Tanzi. So let's get into it. 5 myths to dispel. Number 1, the injured brain cannot heal itself. Now we know that the brain has amazing powers of healing unsuspected in the past. Number 2, the brain's hard wiring cannot be changed. In fact, the line between hard and soft wiring is shifting all the time. And our ability to rewire our brains remains intact from birth to the end of life. Number 3, aging in the brain is inevitable and irreversible. To counter this outmoded belief, new techniques for keeping the brain youthful and retaining mental acuity, I think that word is, acuity, are arising every day. Number 4, the brain loses millions of cells a day and lost brain cells cannot be replaced. Remember, these are myths, cannot be replaced. In fact, the brain contains stem cells that are capable of maturing into new brain cells throughout life. How we lose or gain brain cells is a complex issue. Most of the findings are good news for everyone who is afraid of losing mental capacity as they age. The 5th myth, primitive reactions like fear, anger, jealousy, aggression overrule the higher brain. Because our brains are imprinted with genetic memory over thousands of generations, the lower brain is still with us, generating primitive and often negative drives like fear and anger. But the brain is constantly evolving. This is amazing. So excited. The brain is constantly evolving, and we have gained the ability to master the lower brain through choice and free will. The new field of positive psychology is teaching us how best to use free will to promote happiness and overcome negativity. So, it's good news that these 5 myths have been exploded. The old view made the brain seem fixed, mechanical, and steadily deteriorating. Ooh, damn, deteriorating. Mm. This turns out to be far from the case. You are creating reality at this very minute. And if that process remains alive and dynamic, your brain will be able to keep up with it year after year after year after year after year. The book doesn't say this. I'm just getting excited. Year after year after year after year. Okay. So then these next sections, they discuss in detail How to dispel. Remember, we said dispel is make a doubt or a feeling disappear, get rid of it, eradicate it. How to dispel these old myths as they apply to your own experience and your own expectations. And let me just say, this is page 19 in the book. This is why I implore you, I encourage you, I empower you to go and pick up this book if you can. So, the first myth we're going to dispel: the injured brain cannot heal itself. So in this section of the book, it talks about like if somebody has undergone some trauma, like a car accident, or maybe they blunt force trauma to the head. That there's been even just in our bodies, in that sense, like you cut your finger or you hurt yourself, you lose a limb, and all these other things. It was believed in the past that like the body would not regenerate. Um, you can't get those neurons, those synapses, like you can't get that back. But the truth is, like if you do cut yourself when you're cooking or whatever, like it takes a few days or maybe a couple of weeks, but the body joins itself back. It comes back. There is a regeneration of self, which studies have shown absolutely does happen in the brain as well. Now, I'm giving it, this is the layman term explanation. In the book, when you buy it, you'll see that they use a lot of big words and they use a lot of sciencey explanations which help make better sense. But in terms of what we're doing here, I'm just like, okay, cool. If I cut myself and my finger knows how to heal, if I have a trauma or a thought pattern or a learned disconnection in my brain, there's also the possibility and opportunity for that to heal, for me to encourage a healing process. There, it explains in the book that there's this scientist in the 1700s. I don't want to go into this too much in case um, the animal lovers get upset, but he did some experiment on a dog. And what he realized was that the gap that he created in the animal um, was soon filled with new nerve tissue. It also goes to explain that if you do experience trauma in the head and you lose parts of the neurons or the synapses, the neighboring neurons and synapses, the ones all around, band together to compensate for the loss. Like they basically immediately try and compensate for the missing connections, which made me think that, yo, there's community in my brain cells. There is there is dialogue within my brain cells, in the fact that they're like, man down, okay, let's get together and heal that, come together and compensate for that which is missing, which actually made me feel like really, it just made me go, oh, I love my brain, I love my body, I love what the body is able to do independent of thought. Remember, right, we're exploring how the mind is probably the narrative, like part that tells the body what to do, but the body also, the brain as a living organism, also does things independently, like heal and learn new things once we feed it the food or encourage it and empower it to learn. We teach it new things, right? It's like a baby. When the baby's growing, you got to give it food, you got to give it what it needs in order for it to grow. I think maybe what has happened for a while is that because we believe, or the myth has told us, that once you've lost something, you can't get it back, we stop feeding our brains, we stop feeding our bodies the nourishment it needs in order to get the other cells, the other neurons, the other synapses to band together as a community to compensate for that which is missing. And what it goes on to explain is that once all of those neurons and those synapses have come together to hold that void, the void starts to fill itself with new neurons and synapses. Amazing. I think the actual scientific word for that is neuroplas Ooh, neuroplasticity. Damn. Neuroplasticity. Plasticity. Oh gosh. Okay. Um, so here in this section it says, due to neuroplasticity, come on, riffing, the brain can remodel and remap its connections following injury. This remapping is the functional definition of neuroplasticity, which is now a hot button issue. Oh, this is going to explain literally what the word is, what the word means. I just said neuro comes from neuron, while plasticity refers to being malleable. The old theory that infants map their neural networks as a natural part of their development, after which the process stopped and the brain became hardwired. That was the old theory, yeah. So now we view like the projections of nerve cells in the brain like long, thin worms continually reconfiguring themselves in response to experience, learning, and even the injury. This is what I was going when I was saying we've got to give our brains the food, we've got to give our brains and bodies the nourishment in order to get the community of cells, get the community of neurons and synapses and whatever to band together in order to create new neurons, new neurons. To heal and to evolve are intimately linked. I love that sentence because evolution is healing. Like you grow, you have to grow from somewhere, and it's the definition of evolution. I think we spoke about this in the last one, is to progress gradually. There is no real, I think, destination in regards to the capacity in which our brains can go to, despite or in tandem with that which we perceive as negative. I was hurt, I received an injury. It actually probably, if we look at it from a different perspective, gives the brain something to work on. It gives the brain an opportunity to prove its resilience, prove its regenerational abilities by going, this thing which we might attach as narrative, the mind might attach the narrative of bad, wrong, painful, loss. I don't know, like, will I ever come back from this? Will I ever da da da? The brain kind of goes, challenge accepted. Let's go. Let me show you what I can do, independent of the narrative. That's amazing. It says the brain is remodeling itself right now. It doesn't take an injury to trigger the process. Okay, so we might not even need the injury. Here's me trying to make the injury a good thing. We might not even need the injury. It says being alive is enough. Just sitting, breathing, observing, allowing the body to just be is enough for the brain to produce new neurons, new synapses, how do I say this word? Dendrites and axons. Isn't that amazing? You can promote neuroplasticity moreover by exposing yourself to new experiences. So you got to get out there and do things that you don't normally do. Be in places you might find uncomfortable or awkward. Do things that your brain or your ego, no, not your brain, sorry, your ego might tell you, I don't do that. I don't go to them places. I don't do those things. Because you can promote the neuroplasticity. You can allow your brain to show you how exceptional it is. That's exciting. It says even better is to deliberately set out to learn new skills. So challenge today as you listen to this. What new skill are you going to learn today? Or what new skill are you going to begin today that you can improve on tomorrow, learn more tomorrow, become more experienced, more skillful in tomorrow? Oh, it says if you show passion and enthusiasm, all the better. The simple step of giving an older person a pet to take care of instills more willingness to live. You think as an actress I'd be able to say these words? Sorry, as a storyteller. If you've listened to my storyteller versus actor podcast, you'd know why I just corrected myself. You think I'd be able to say these words like I'd just be able to rip them off my tongue? No, this is hard work. It says the simple step of giving an older person a pet to take care of instills more willingness to live. Now, I be joking with my mum all the time that I'm gonna buy her a dog. My mum doesn't. She claims she doesn't like animals, and I know my mum's gonna be listening to this. So one day I'm gonna get her a puppy, who I know she will love. But just even that desire to continue on because you've got something to take care of, isn't that really like powerful if you think of your body as that which you need to take care of? If you gave yourself the opportunity to be independent of the narrative that is I'm experiencing this, and acknowledge that my body is also an independent being that I need to care for in the same way that you would a pet that you love, a person that you love, plants that you love. I'm a massive plant mom. I think that's a really interesting thought. If you look at your body and your mind and your soul, spirit, independent of the narrative, will it elongate your desire to live because you have something to care for? I mean, you always have something to care for anyway. Like that kind of sentence, it kind of is void because that is true. We must care for self. But I think we don't do that with intention. We don't do that with diligence, especially because we're so used to our bodies just being there, taking it for granted, the same way we take air for granted. The same way we forget to breathe. I forget to breathe. And when I'm having fun, I just be riffing. I actually forget to breathe. It says here, we need to remember that neurons are servants. So basically what you tell the neurons to do, they will do. Their desire, the neurons' desire, if we were going to add a narrative to it, is to serve. That is the neuron's purpose, being of service. Okay. What really invigorates an older person, though, is acquiring a new purpose and something new to love. So it's less about the external puppy, it's the purpose and acknowledging that there is something new to love. Wow. Imagine if we actually acknowledged our bodies like that. Every single day, I have something to love. And that is my body, that is my brain, that is my lungs, my limbs, and all that other stuff. I have something to love. Wow. Wow. Neuroplasticity is better than mind over matter. It's mind turning into matter as your thoughts create new neural growth. It's turning mind into matter. Turning mind into matter. I think I got more exploration to do around that thought. Because, if the mind is the narrative part, if the mind is that adds the story, and then the neurons, the new synapses, the new dendrites is born from the narratives, then you literally are teaching your brain how to live. You're literally creating new electrical messages on how to live. So why not make the narrative? Why not make the story that we are attached to, right? That the ego is attached to, one that is positive, one that we perceive as positive, or one that at least can acknowledge that life experiences are in constant flow, and from each experience we can gain an opportunity to make it an enjoyable one. If that makes any sense, I hope that makes sense because I feel like I'm onto something. It says in the early days, the phenomenon of neuroplasticity was scoffed at, you know. Oh, wow. And it says that when they realized that mind had this power over matter, it was monumental for both Deepak and Rudolph. It says here that Deepak was focused on the spiritual side of the mind body connection, promoting meditation and alternative medicine, saying, if you want to know what your thoughts were like in the past, look at your body today. And if you want to know what your body will be like in the future, look at your thoughts today. Listen, I keep thinking that I'm making up, like, I keep thinking that these ideas are my own when I be talking. Literally, what I just said how many minutes ago is literally what Deepak has written. And I have read this book. It's all learning. I'm just learning out loud, I guess. But yeah, I'm thinking about it in the brain capacity, but of course, it's all over it's the entire body capacity. If you're genuinely creating new synapses, new neurons, new dendrites, new electrical messages, and you're telling your body that it is healthy, it is strong, it is um, resilient, it is agile, it is all of these things, then that is what you will, of course, that's what your body will create. That's what I mean by the mind having the narrative part and the brain being literally the one that makes those instructions come alive. Incredible. It says for Rudy, the neuroscientist, a professor of neurology, sorry, he was fascinated by this mind becoming matter when it came to Alzheimer's, and how the Alzheimer's disease, the amyloid beta protein, the A beta peptide for short, which is the sticky substance that accumulates in the brain and correlates with neurons becoming dysfunctional and breaking down. He said one day he read a paper of how the brain of an Alzheimer's patient had dealt with the accumulation of that sticky substance we were just talking about. And it was to remodel the part that had been stricken. So Alzheimer's affects the memory, and that's where the sticky part starts to get involved and starts to mess up. And the scientific word for that area is called the hippocampus. The hippocampus is responsible for short term memory, and where it's located is beneath the temples. Oh my gosh, that's so interesting. It's why when we're trying to remember something, if we try, okay, if you're listening to this and you want to remember something, do the gesture of how you'd remember. I would always put my hand to my head where my temples are. That would be my gesture. If I was like, oh, what's that thing I'm trying to remember? What's that thing I'm trying to remember? And literally, scientifically, that is where your hippocampus is. So the body even acknowledges physically where all of this exists. This is so exciting. This is why I love neuroscience. Okay. Wow. So it says here that Rudy was exploring um, Alzheimer's, and he had a patient called Keith Jarrett, who was a jazz pianist and arguably one of the best jazz pianists ever lived, it says. He um, responding in the moment in creative directions based on the foundation of a lifetime worth of experiences, wisdom renewing itself in the moment, memory finding fresh life. Okay, you guys are gonna have to read this part for yourself because it's really dense, and this is what I mean when it gets into the sciencey part. I'm like, okay, I can't even try and make this layman terms. Y'all need to do this stuff. But it's basically saying that by encouraging, that by you can regenerate brain tissue enough to basically offset Alzheimer's. See, these science guys, these science guys. Okay. Wow. Okay. So it says here Rudy suddenly had a deep appreciation for the exquisite power and resilience of the human brain. Never count the brain out. With neuroplasticity, the brain has evolved into a marvelously adaptable and remarkable. Gosh. With neuroplasticity, the brain has evolved into a marvelously adaptable and remarkably regenerative organ. That even in a brain being damaged by Alzheimer's, one need only catch it early enough and neuroplasticity may be triggered. It's one of the brightest possibilities for future research. Now, that got really dense really quickly. And that's only the first myth, which is um, the injured brain cannot heal itself. And if we're saying with science, if what the book is saying is that you can encourage new brain tissue and neurons and synapses, not just through thought, but through feeding the brain new experiences, training the brain through like learning things. It said in that section that was really the sciencey part of the section that the reason we sometimes forget stuff like the short-term memory, we forget, you walk into a room and you're like, what did I come in here for? You walk into the kitchen, you open the fridge and you're like, what actually do I want? Or you don't know where you put your keys down, or you put the, it's because we haven't learned where we did it or what we're doing it for. It's like that autopilot type of situation where you're just kind of in movement or in life but not really being present. For me, I acknowledge that when all of a sudden I clock that my plants are dying, or I am like, oh, or food has gone off in my fridge, and I'm like, oh, I'm here, but I'm not here. And there's a part of relearning that I need to engage in, which is learn that there are things you must remember, not remember, but there are things you must be present with. I put my keys down here and learn that, remember that, think about that in a different way in order to encourage neuroplasticity, in order to encourage new neuron growth, new synapse growth. So that, okay, here we go. Listeners, the challenge for today or this next week is, what new skill are you going to learn? And each time you do something, um, as frivolous as it may be, like you put your keys down, you put your shoes down, you take your coat off, you drop this off, or you put whatever, remember or actively acknowledge where you put it. I am putting my pink pen down on this place right now. You might not have to say it out loud, you might just think it, but without having to really fully go, oh, where did I put that? Where did I put it? My brain doesn't, da, 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 and encourage the brain that you're forgetting things. Actually learn and remember where you put them. That's my challenge for you listeners. I thought I was gonna get through two myths, to be honest. I didn't think I was gonna take one myth. It's gonna be one myth an episode. But hey ho, I love it. And I love science. Let me know how that challenge goes. I feel like we're gaining more readers, more listeners, more people who are exploring their brain. And that is so exciting. So thank you for being on this journey with me. um, I hope you buy the book. I hope this episode was helpful. I know sometimes I'd be rambling and who knows what I'd be saying, but I hope that you are also exploring the capacity of your brain. And look, let me tell you the truth. The reason I'm recording these episodes is so that I can go back when I need to top up, or if my brain or my mind ever wants to attach the narrative that I don't agree with, and I want to go back and relearn this stuff. Like I said, I read this book a couple years ago and I'm still relearning, rediscovering. I guess I'm just learning out loud with you guys. So thanks for being on this journey with me, and I hope this is helpful. I hope you have a great week. All right.